Hey guys, welcome to my channel. So this will be my first tutorial, and what I wanted to start off by making for you today is going to be one of these bookmarks. And you can see I've made them in a number of metals with a few different shapes. And just to show you how they work, so they're just going to go in the book like that, and then they're going to be shown on the edge there. So, if you would like to watch how to make one of these, stay tuned. Alright, so for this project, the base wire that I'm going to be using for our bookmark is going to be 18 gauge round, and you can use round or square. It doesn't really matter. You'll get a bit of a different texture if you use square when you hammer it. So this is made with square wire, just to give you an idea. So basically the main difference is going to be how it hammers out. These ones are made with round wire, so you can see the difference there. But 18 gauge is going to be the gauge that you want. 16 gauge might be a little too thick and hard to twist, and 20 gauge just isn't going to be strong enough. 18 gauge dead soft is what I'm using here. We're also going to be using 7 pieces of 28 gauge dead soft copper wire for our tree. We've got some little rock chip beads here. These are Unikite. We have a variety of pliers we'll be using today, and then we also have a few of these mandrels, and today I think we'll be using the circular mandrel. So to get your bookmark started, you're going to want to find the center of your main base wire. So it's going to be right around there. Then you're going to go ahead and shape it around your mandrel, and I think I'm going to do this third one from the bottom. So you want to get that down flat on the mandrel, and then holding it tightly to the mandrel, you're going to go ahead and start your twist. So you want to leave just small little tails here on the end that we're going to curl up. I think I might actually want to twist that once more. Okay. So while it's still on the mandrel, you can straighten it. And if you prefer, you can use nylon pliers if that's more comfortable for you. I personally just like to use my fingers because the copper wire is so soft, it's easy to manipulate with your fingers, in my opinion. Okay. So now we have our basic shape of our bookmark, and we are going to hammer this out because the 18 gauge is a thick wire, but it's still dead soft, and we want it to be nice and thick and sturdy. One thing you want to pay attention to when you're hammering this is that one side of your frame is going to be coming up higher than the other side, and so you want to pay attention to that when you actually put it down onto your anvil. I'm going to be using my edge of my anvil to keep this flat. Alright, so got that nice and flat, and what we want to do to give it a little bit more strength is to give just this area right here a few taps, So now we are going to bend our bookmark, and I'm going to use my baling pliers. Make sure I'm showing you what I'm doing. Okay. All right, and so that's how we want it to look. All right, and so now we are going to hammer our bookmark nice and flat so that when it lays in the binding of the book, it's going to go in nice and smoothly. And for that reason, we actually want to hang our frame over the side here and stabilize our bookmark with our fingers. And you're just going to hammer it in sections. And you want to go ahead and hammer this pretty hard. We want it to be nice and stiff and sturdy. So you can go ahead and give it some force with your hammer. Just be careful not to make too many tool marks. And it's going to warp a little bit as you do this. Don't worry about that. We're going to straighten it in a minute. Just go to your next section. All right, before we finish this off, we actually want to come down here and make our little loops real quick because we're going to hammer those flat too. And so I'm going to, again, take my baling pliers and I'm going to use the smallest So that's what you want it to look like. And now we're going to go ahead and hammer the very end of our bookmark. All right, so when I say give it some force, this is what I mean. You want these wires to actually kind of like be hammered into each other, if you can see that. And see there's a little space between them. So that's about how flat you want to hammer it is. So now we can take our nylon pliers and we can straighten this out a little bit. We are done hammering for now, so I'm going to get my anvil out of the way. And you're just going to go through and look for your kinks. Just kind of squeeze them out. All right. And so now we have our little frame for our bookmark. And you can actually do a lot of different stuff with these. You can wrap pretty much anything you want to in here. One thing I've done so far, I'll show you an example, is I've done little menorahs with, in fact, menorahs were the first ones that I did. And then I decided to do trees. All right, so now we're going to start our tree. All right, so I decided to zoom in a little further so that you guys can see this process a little easier, a little more close up. So here I've got 7 28 gauge wires, and these are, let me see how long these are. These are about 8 inches. And the size, the length of these wires really depends on how big your frame is for your tree. Usually the way that I determine how I'm going to measure this is I'll pull from my spool and I'll just kind of look at my frame that I have for my tree. And I want a decent amount of wire past my frame because you got to remember that you're going to twist this wire, and so that's going to shrink it up. And you also want to have enough wire to pull around your frame at the end and give yourself enough tension to pull that tight. So you do want quite a bit of length there. And so once you decide how long you want that, then you're just going to go ahead and double it, and you're going to snip at the end there, and then that's how you'll get your length for the wire that you'll have for your trees. So I like to take all my wires and get them lined up together. And then I just like to take them all at once, and this is going to give me my bend for where I'm going to wrap these around my frame. Alright, so put your first wire on your frame. You're going to hold one side of your wire like this, and then you're going to wrap this other one around your frame 2 to 3 times. You can go 4, 5, 6 if you want to make your roots wider. You just gotta think to yourself, however wide you make, however many times you wrap this around, that's going to make it wider and wider for your roots to your tree. So you can make this wider if you want, but I like to keep them kind of thin. Okay, once you have all of your wires on your frame, we're going to want to go ahead and start forming our tree. I'm going to flip these up. I don't like that this wire is sticking up here. I don't know if that... See that? Yeah, we're gonna fix that. I like to get my trees kind of going around the sides, kind of get them a little curved. Like that. I'm going to make my first little set of branches. Alright, I'm going to make a few more branches and then we'll start putting our leaves on. You just untangle these at the end. All right, so we've got our tree all laid out, and now we want to go ahead and put our leaves on our tree. And all of these branches might not be used. I mean, this is a very small frame. So what we're going to do is, if we have to, we're going to snip branches off as we go. And that might be a little hard to show you without being able to zoom in really close, but I'll try to describe it as best I can. So what I like to do is pour some of my stones out onto the table so that I can get a look at all of them, so that I can find all of the real tiniest ones. Because again, this frame is so small, we don't necessarily want to shove a bunch of the big, larger stones. For this project, it's really best to find smaller chip stones that are going to be between, I would say, 3 to maybe 5 millimeters. Those can be difficult to find, but if you put those measurements in at like Fire Mountain Gems or Amazon, you will be able to find smaller chip beads. Maybe not in every kind of stone, but I've found a wide variety of chip beads that do offer these nice, very small chips that are perfect for tiny projects like this. So now we're going to start putting our leaves onto our tree. And you really don't need to overdo it. I don't like for my stones to pop out of my frame too much. So I'm going to go ahead and just tie this one off, and we'll move on to the next branch. And I'm going to speed this part up for you guys. And if I have to remove a branch, I will slow it down and let you know how to do that. You want to coil your branch wire around your frame 3 times. Get that in focus for you. Pull it nice and tight every time that you're coiling it around your frame. And then once you have it coiled around, we're going to pull it to the back and snip it off. And then we're going to tuck it under. Okay. Okay guys, so I'm going to need to remove, I can already see, I'm going to need to remove one or two of the branches on this side, because if you'll notice, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 branches over on this side, got a few extra over here. So I want to make sure I'm keeping this balanced. Also, as I add the stones, it's just going to naturally push out, and so I'm going to have to remove some of these wires as I go. So to do that, I'm going to wrap one of these wires around the other one and snip it off and tuck it under. So you just want to kind of bring it around, almost as if, well, actually you are coiling it around the other one. This is kind of squirrely, kind of hard to do with such a thin wire. If you were using a 26 gauge wire, it might be a little easier to do this if you're a beginner. Once you've got a little more experience, it's not so difficult. And then if you'll see, I've just got this little end, and so I've already got it started to be coiled over that other wire. So now all I have to do is just squeeze it down with my pliers, and then it's closed off and it's hidden, and you never knew that there was another wire there. And it just looks like part of the branch. And so that's what it's going to look like. Alright, so I decided it was starting to get a little bit too bushy over here, so instead of adding more stones, I'm going to put this one last stone in where it kind of fits under these ones, and then instead of coming over my frame, I'm actually going to take this one wire underneath my frame. Careful not to tangle it up. Okay. And so what this is going to allow me to do is actually pull this wire up behind these chips here. So it's going to kind of hide that wire, and it's going to push this stone into the ones above it. And so that way I don't have to add another stone down here and have it come down just a little bit too low. Because as I fill in over here, remember, you want to keep it kind of balanced and even on both sides. I'm going to come in from the back here, and I'm going to just pull this wire just very gently. A little further back. See? The wire's hidden. So that is our finished bookmark. If you want, you can go in with your chain nose pliers and make little kinks in the branches. But I think I like the way that mine came out. It's got a good flow to it. So I'm just going to leave those branches as they are. And to oxidize this, you can do it one of two ways. If you have a long, shallow dish, you can put some water in that long, shallow dish, put a few drops of your liver of sulfur in there, and then mix that up, and you can put the bookmark in to oxidize that way. If you don't have a long dish, what I like to do is using gloves and obviously in a well-ventilated area, you can make a little mixture of your liver of sulfur with the water, and you can use a paintbrush actually to just lightly paint the liver of sulfur patina onto the bookmark. And then you'll just do what you would normally do after you put the patina on. You'll take your steel wool and your dish soap and give it a good polish with that. And so that is the finished piece. And I'm going to go ahead and oxidize this, and I'll show you what it looks like all done. So here's our finished product after I have oxidized this. And go ahead and I'm going to actually use the bottom of this book because the binding on the bottom is black. So let's just take a look here. It should go in there nice and flat. And you can take a look at your bookmark on the binding, and you can adjust it if it sits funny, and you can see if you need to tighten it at all. But that looks pretty good. So here's some better angles of the finished bookmark. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell so you get notified every time I upload a new tutorial. And I just want to say have a fantastic day, and remember to love your neighbor and always treat others as you want to be treated, for this is the law and the prophets. God bless you guys, and I hope to see you in the next video.